Today, as promised, we're going to make beignets. This is a recipe that is consistent with the recipe that comes from Cook's Illustrated, and we're going to cut it in half because the Cook's Illustrated recipe makes about 2 dozen of these beignets. We only have 5 people in the house, of which only a handful like beignets, crazily enough. So we're going to cut it in half, and we're going to cut it in half for you because it still makes 12. 12 is a lot, and it's really simple. We're actually making this the day before, or the night before, partially because we like to let this dough ferment. Fermentation is good. It's healthy. It also makes for a more flavorful beignet. This is a yeast-raised product, so if you're a little intimidated by yeast, don't be. It's fairly simple. The ingredients are 1.5 cups of flour, a pinch of salt, 1 egg, about a 1.5 tablespoons of sugar, 1/2 cup of water with a teaspoon of yeast placed in it and dissolved in it, and then just a tablespoon of canola oil. We're going to eyeball that. And it's essentially just mixing all of those ingredients together, and what we'll get is a very loose dough in the bowl that will allow to sit and rise overnight. And we'll revisit the dough tomorrow. This is a deep fried dough, so hopefully you have a Dutch oven into which you can actually add the dough in the morning, because these can't be baked. The whole point of them is to be deep fried. So we're just going to add the water. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the egg directly to the water with the sugar as well, and give those a stir with a fork. This is sort of the classic, let's mix the wet ingredients separately from the dry ingredients and then introduce them to the dry ingredients. This allows for a good mixing of all the ingredients together. We're going to actually add a pinch of salt to maybe a little more than a pinch, to the flour. That's all-purpose flour, by the way. We're going to add approximately 1 tablespoon of oil to our liquid. And yeah, we can be a little cavalier. This is rustic food. And then we're going to add it all to our flour. Now we're going to mix it all together, and a fork is a suitable tool for this. We're just trying to get a nice damp dough, or not even a batter. It's not a batter, it's a dough. And you can see it's about the consistency of, well, it's thicker than toothpaste, certainly. But it is one all mass, and we've got a nice little ball in the middle. What we're going to do is we're going to cover this up with foil, let it sit overnight. It will rise overnight, at which point we will actually then lay it out on a floured surface and take it to the next step, which is to cut it into triangles before we fry it. So we'll see you in the morning. Good morning. So here we are about 15 hours later, and you can see the change in the dough as far as it has risen considerably, and so now we're going to turn it out onto a floured surface and shape it, not roll it out, but press it with our fingers and shape it into a rectangle. That's about 9 inches by 12 inches. We'll see how much dough we have. So we turned the dough out onto our counter, which was heavily floured. We've made it into a rectangle. It's roughly 9 by 12. And then we're going to use a pizza cutter to cut these into rectangles. The dough has a nice yeasty, sort of soury smell because we let it ferment overnight, which will add to the flavor. So we're very pleased with the result. We also have our we have our deep fat fryer, which is essentially just a Dutch oven filled with, or halfway filled with oil, and we're going to turn that on, and we're going to get that up to about 350 degrees. You can see we actually have a thermometer here so that we can measure that. That'll take a few minutes to heat up. So I have a pizza cutter here, and I'm going to cut this into rectangles, 3 by 4. And these will be the actual beignets that we fry. And I know they look flat and unconvincing, but once we put them into the hot oil, they will puff up rather quickly and make the donuts that we're expecting. Stand by. The oil, which is basically just vegetable oil, is up to temperature now, about 350 degrees. I'm going to use a spatula and transfer these. Just makes it easier to transfer them without getting splattered into the fat. I'm going to do these 4 at a time, actually 3 at a time. That keeps the oil from getting too cool. It also gives the beignets a little more space to fry, and you can see them puffing up already. What we'll do is let them go on one side, and then we'll test to see how the other side looks, and flip them over. Now, ideally, what we would have is or what they have at the restaurants is a secondary screen that actually pushes them down so they cook on both sides at the same time. We don't have that luxury, obviously. See how that side looks. No, still needs some more time. Let's flip these buggers over. These go pretty quickly. Just a couple of minutes gets the job done. You'll know you're getting close when the bubbling starts to slow down. That means much of the moisture in the dough has escaped. Flip them back over, get the bottoms fully cooked. That's kind of the color you're looking for. And then we're going to pull them out and set them on we actually have a cooling rack set up here upon which to set these. Let them cool a little bit, and then we'll do the final pièce de résistance. There's the cooling rack. We'll place these on a cooling rack, and we will hit them with some powdered sugar, and they'll be ready to eat. All right, look at these little beauties. They're all out of the fryer. Now we're just going to dust them with some powdered sugar, and they are all ready to eat. And I'll call the boys up from downstairs. We all had a friend sleep over last night. We'll get the official taste test.
Can we get one? Or
Yeah, grab one.
Oh, dang. Looks best. It's really good. God, it's so fluffy.
Let's see the inside. Oh,
that
yeah.
one's not very good. I put it not very good example. We want one of the ones that are doughy.
Yeah.
That's cool.